So today I want to talk to you about something that is super important to me. Sunscreen. Now I know what you're thinking. It's not the sexiest topic in the world and you're probably thinking, I already know everything to know about sunscreen. But it is the #1 thing that I tell my friends and coworkers who don't have a beauty regimen and they're like, how do I get started? The answer is put sunscreen on your face daily, even if it's cloudy out. Even if you don't think you're gonna go outside today. Because the thing is, sun rays can penetrate clouds and glass. So let's talk about it. Okay, so let's talk for a minute about the different kinds of sunscreens that we have available to us. The first kind is what we call a physical sunscreen. So it's that white, kind of chalky, kind of greasy, kind of heavy. It's a typical thing that you think of when you think of sunscreen. And the way that those sunscreens work is by actually reflecting the rays that hit your skin. Physical sunscreens are really good if you have sensitive skin because they're going to be mostly non-irritating. And they're great if you are in a hurry because there's no wait time in between the time that you put it on and the time that it becomes active. But they can be really hard to work with because they're difficult to wear under makeup. They can leave a white cast on a lot of different skin tones, especially us darker girls. And it doesn't absorb into the skin very well. So when you try to put foundation and whatnot on top of it, it can be kind of a disaster. Luckily, we have another alternative. Chemical sunscreens, while they're not huge in the US yet, although I think that's eventually gonna change, they're really big in Asian markets. And they work by actually absorbing the UV rays so that, again, they don't get to your skin, but they're not reflected, they just actually get absorbed. The great thing about chemical sunscreens is that they tend to sink into your skin really fast and really easily. They tend to be much more lightweight, non-greasy, so they're much more easy to work with and you can wear them every day underneath your makeup. However, they do tend to be a little bit more stinging, a little bit more aggravating if you have sensitive skin. I don't, that's not a problem for me. But I will also warn you that when you sweat and that stuff gets into your eyes, it does sting. No sunscreen feels good when it gets in your eyes, but that is something to think about. So it's not a great option if you're like gonna be doing a lot of activity, physical activity where you're gonna be sweating or whatnot. So that's not a great choice. The other big con that I think that it's worth mentioning about chemical sunscreens is that they do have an activation time. So it actually takes 15 minutes from the time you put it on to the time that it protects you from the sun. In general, I prefer to use a chemical sunscreen. It does not leave a white cast, which is great for me and my skin tone. It's easy to apply onto my skin. It works great with makeup. It's non-greasy and I tend to have oily skin, so having something that dries a little bit more matte is really important for me. So I really like chemical sunscreens. In fact, let me go show you the one that I really like the best. Okay, so this is my favorite stuff. This is my go-to everyday, what I wear just underneath my makeup. It's the Biore UV Aqua Rich Watery Essence. I get it on Amazon. You can also get it on eBay, and there's also a new version of this that just recently came out. Have not gotten my hands on it yet. It's coming. I think it's coming from Japan though, so who knows when it's gonna get here. It's in a slightly darker, like an aqua darker blue bottle. So if you do see that, definitely get your hands on it, try it out, and let me know what you think about it. The main thing about sunscreen is you just have to find something that you're gonna wear every day. So the next thing I want to talk to you about is actually how much sunscreen you actually need to be protected from the sun. So one thing I hear a lot from people is that I put my sunscreen on and I still got burned. Well, there's lots of reasons that could have happened. Also, it could have been that you didn't use enough sunscreen. You actually need so much more sunscreen than you think. Let me show you how much. So check this out. This right here is 1/4 teaspoon. That's actually how much sunscreen you need just on your face to get the protection that's guaranteed by your SPF rating. So let me show you how much that is. There's still more in here. So much. Look at that, look at that. Look how much that is. Almost nobody wears that much sunscreen on a daily basis, but that's how much you actually need to get protection. That SPF rating on your bottle, it only matters if you actually use the right amount. If you use too little, you are not getting the protection that you think you're getting. So it's a ton, it is a lot, and that's just for your face. The FDA says you actually need a shot glass worth of sunscreen for your whole body. That is so much, but that's how much you need to be protected. Maybe even look into those powder mineral sunscreens. I don't know how good they are, and I really don't understand if they can give you this kind of protection because I don't think you could pack on that much powder without looking like you're dead. But it's worth looking into, especially because you don't want to err on the side of skin cancer. You want to err a little bit on the side of dead grandma. I don't know. So most of you probably already know that SPF stands for sun protection factor. But what you might not have known is that the SPF rating actually refers to the amount of UVB rays that you are protected from. So you might remember from like high school that the sun produces two different kinds of UV rays, UVA rays and UVB. UVA is actually what causes aging because they actually penetrate deeper and they can cause more long-term damage to the skin. UVB rays, however, are also bad, and they are the ones that cause burning on the skin, and they're the ones that are responsible for a lot of different kinds of skin cancer. So you need to be protected from both, and luckily, most of the brands, I think maybe probably all of them in the United States that are labeled broad spectrum, they protect you from both. So broad spectrum means you're going to get protection from UVA and from UVB. So what the SPF rating actually means is it's the amount of time that it's going to take for you to burn with the protection on. So let me explain that a little bit. SPF 15, for example, means that 1/15 of the sun's rays are getting to you. So it's going to take you 15 times as long as normal to burn. SPF 30, you get 30 times protection, and SPF 50, you get 50 times protection. There is no research to indicate that anything higher than SPF 50 actually works. So if you see that on a package, especially with that higher price point, you can just keep on looking. You don't need anything higher than SPF 50. It's going to block about 98% of the sun's rays getting to your skin. Nothing is 100% effective. If you need 100% effective, you need a hat and sunglasses. That's the only way to get that kind of protection. The other thing to know is that a lot of Asian brands also indicate the protection against UVA rays. Now, this is not a standard in the United States yet. We don't have an approved system for registering how effective a sunscreen is at protecting you from UVA. But in Asia, they do have a system, and it's called the PA system, and it basically just stands for protection against UVA rays. When you're looking at Asian packages, you'll often see plus symbols next to PA. So you'll see PA 1+ all the way up to 4, I think right now is the highest that you can get. And that is how protected you are from those damaging UVA rays. So if you are looking into some of those Asian chemical sunscreens, look for the ones that offer both an SPF of 50 plus a PA of 3+ or higher. Those are going to be your best bet. Sunscreen actually doesn't last all day. In the case of chemical sunscreens, the sun rays actually break down the bonds that make the sunscreen effective, and that takes about 2 hours, which is why when you're using a chemical sunscreen, you're supposed to reapply that every 2 hours of sun exposure. Physical sunscreens are a little bit different. You can actually get away with wearing those for longer as long as they don't wash off, but because it's easier to remember the 2-hour rule, we tend to just recommend that every 2 hours of sun exposure, go ahead and reapply your sunscreen. Now, the key phrase there is hours of sun exposure. It's not just 2 hours in general. So if you put your sunscreen on at like 9 a.m. and then you stay in the house in a room with not very much sunlight, you can actually get away with wearing it for a little bit longer. So let's say you work in an office and you don't get a whole lot of natural light, but you do commute in an hour and you commute out for an hour. That's your 2 hours right there, because you're getting hit by the sun's rays in your car or on the train or wherever it is that's coming through the glass. So you do want to take that into consideration. Okay, so I think that about wraps it up today for sunscreen. If you guys have more questions or would like some clarity around anything I mentioned or even something I might have left out, please leave me a comment. I'd love to talk to you more about it and share my knowledge and information with you. And if you have more information also, please share it with the rest of us. We'd love to have it. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.